Hi everybody, my name is Clarissa and I'm a nursing educator here for DHR Health. Today's topic, we're going to talk about the importance of hand hygiene. Now I know you heard this a lot because of our COVID crisis, but even before that, it's very important that we at least take time to really wash our hands. Now why is hand hygiene important? One personal benefit is because you can have better health. Now, how would you say that is? Why? Because it helps keep our body clean, it prevents illnesses from spreading, and it keeps infection and bacteria and viruses away from us. So, for example, what are hand hygiene moments? Of course, before you prepare food, especially if you're going to eat some cold cuts or like vegetables, you want to make sure that you wash them thoroughly and also wash your hands while you're handling things. One of the important things is maybe you'll have some grilled chicken with maybe a salad. You want to make sure if you're touching raw chicken that you wash your hands as you prepare a salad, as you won't be cooking it. Now, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I stress is I have a couple of things to show you on how do you know you're doing a good job when you're washing your hands. Because you might be in a rush or you just might not have time to take that extra few seconds. But I wanted to show you that sometimes just simply feeling the soap in your hands isn't exactly confirming that you did a good job in hand washing. So what I'm gonna start by doing today is showing you with some gloves. So I'm gonna put on some gloves just so I can keep my hands nice and clean, but I wanted to illustrate more of a visual because I know when you go to wash your hands it's kind of a little bit difficult to keep track of what areas you have washed, but just so that we can see, and I'll put my gloves on here, and these are sterile gloves, but you don't have to be sterile. It's just to keep me from getting myself baptized with paint here. Okay, so we're going to use just regular paint. I just chose to use a glow one just so that you could see a little bit better. So this is a paint, and we're gonna go over the process of washing your hands. So what do we do first? First, we're gonna turn on that water. So turn on the water, right? What is step two? Well, step two is we're actually gonna get our hands wet. So you wet your hands, right? And what is the next step? The soap, of course. So this is our pretend soap, and I'm gonna put some on our hands, my hands, okay? So as you can see here, this is what our soap would probably look like when you go to the bathroom or utility. So what do we do first, right? We wanna scrub our hands. I always tell our students, make bubbles, right? That's how you know. So our hands got wet. We wanna make sure when we put the soap that we don't rinse it out with the water. So we're gonna make bubbles, so let's just do that. So this is naturally the most refreshing part that you guys have when you're having it. Some people I've caught will go and rinse their hands, but look at this. I have soap and I only have it on the inside of my hands. So what is the next step in hand washing? Well, we wanna make sure we interlace our hands, meaning that you're gonna crisscross. So one goes over the other. So we're gonna interlace them on top, right? We're doing this to the top of the hand. Then what do we do? So look, now we have this side and this side. We don't have this side. So what we do with one, we must do with the other. So we're gonna interlace it on the top, getting the top portion of our hands. So, but I want you to see something. What am I missing, right? What about our nails, right? They need some love too. So as we interlace the top, now we're gonna move into our nails, okay? So you wanna make sure you're scrubbing that, okay? I like to sing happy birthday, but if I'm gonna sing happy birthday, kind of sing fast, so I'm gonna do two. Or you could do twinkle twinkle or the alphabet, whichever you prefer, okay? And then so now I have the nail portion of my hands and we're missing the other nails. Do you see this? Do you see how it's missing? So now we're gonna make sure we get some of that soap on there, right? I want you to take notice. So we did this with our hands closed, then we interlaced them, one on top of the other, but I want you to pay attention to maybe the outside of my hand. Do you see the V here where we're missing that soap area? And look at, what about my thumbs? Can you see how we haven't gotten the thumbs? So we made bubbles this way, one over, and then we switched. Then we did the nails, the nail portion of it on both hands, but we haven't gotten the outside or the top hand. So we wanna make sure we do the thumbs right, just like the other ones. So we're gonna do our thumbs here, right? So the pink, remember, is our soap. We still have the wristlets. So what's next on our last hand washing? It's our wristlets. So we're gonna go ahead, and I like to start from the top of the wristlet where it bends and then come down. So if I missed anything, this is a great opportunity to do so. So once I do this, and again, this is for 20 seconds, depending on how heavy or severely soiled your hands become. And then naturally, I just go over this way. But do you see now how I've covered all of my hand? Can you imagine if you just got the soap and maybe just did this number and then rinsed off? Or maybe you just did this number, how much of that area you would miss? So that is so, so important that you take your time in actually using the soap on what it's made for before we rinse, okay? So what is the next step? We have this soap, how are we gonna get it off? Okay, clearly from here, you would rinse off from your wristlets down, okay? So you rinse one, then the other. It's not gonna wash off because I have gloves, but I'll just take it off just so I can show you. One of the important other things that I would like to remember is that once we're rinsing off, right, the hope is that you already got a pre-paper towel. So you grab your paper towel, you dry your hands. After you're done drying your hands, it's very wise for you to go ahead and toss that over. The water's still running. So you'd grab another paper towel and then you would shut that off. It is so, so important that we share our hand hygiene, especially if you're at school. There's so many areas from one classroom to the next classroom, which brings me to our next subject on the use of our antibacterial. Now, this is the one that I carry around because it's easy to have, but it's a really good idea if you're walking in through the same door that your friends are walking through. It's so important that you kind of antibacterial, and this takes just but a few seconds. It's not wise sometimes. See, so you just want a little bit, enough to cover. And the same thing, you want to share and get it all over in your fingertips till it dries off. Many people will just put some on their hands, call it a day, and if it's too much, they start putting it on their clothing, which is not proper either. Remember, if there's a virus, it can stay alive. There's spores on surfaces of areas. Think about all the people that you share the desk with, at your school. Also, we also share eating places. So as much as we try, we got to do our part too. So when you're preparing food, before you start eating, of course, anything that you put in your mouth, you should always wash your hands or maybe carry a sanitizer with you that can do that appropriately. The goal is, according to the CDC, the guideline is that the alcohol concentration be above 60%. So you'll see different things. So even if you go to the store, you can start looking at the different concentrations and make sure you have one that's good for your hands. If you find, well, I don't want to wash my hands because they dry out, or maybe you're using sanitizer too much, this is where a lotion is pretty good for you to use as well, so that you can keep your hands really moisturized. Make sure that you keep surfaces that are visibly soiled clean as well. Kitchen hygiene. You want to follow safe food storage and preparation practices, right? So this is where your poultry in your kitchen, you can use different colors to cut different meats. Keep your green knife for the vegetables you cut, keep the red one for the red meat, and so on. You want to make sure that you also think about respiratory hygiene. Now, with COVID-19 specifically, because we're in this area, anytime someone sneezes or coughs, the mean average that cough will stay airborne is 3 hours. Okay, so it means to say that if I sneeze now, 3 hours later, they come back to this very spot, there could be floating little aerosols in here that you could still get. This is why it's so important for us to wash our hands and keep our hands away from our eyes, our mouth, and our noses. So, so important, because that's a port of entry. Now, when you are going to share utensils at home, it's very important that you also wash those thoroughly. Make sure that if you have to sneeze, excuse yourself. Even if you have to sneeze on your arm and cover your face. And that's also very important, because you might go say hi to a friend, and where do you grab? You grab the arm that they use to cover their face. So just think about the process. Cover your mouth and nose when you're coughing and sneezing. Show your little brothers and sisters how important it is, because they sneeze and then they go out and touch things. Even if you're borrowing a pencil from your friend, this is why it's appropriate to have a sanitizer when you hand it back up. And also, if you're finding yourself to be very sick, you want to make sure you stay home if you're ill. Especially if you're having a cough or a fever. So that concludes our hand washing. Just stay safe. Make sure, remember hand hygiene moments before food preparation, before you eat, After you use the toilet, most definitely, if you're changing any diapers for your brothers or sisters, especially after contact with pets as well. I know they can be very cute, but it's very important that anytime that you just start getting into the habit of cleaning your hands. So don't use antibacterial if your hands are visibly soiled. If your hands are visibly soiled, wash your hands. That's the best way to get rid of spores on your hands. And also, you know, if you use the antibacterial 10 times a day, hey, good, just go wash it with soap and water, have a fresh start. If your hands are very heavily soiled, you should probably take longer than 20 seconds to wash your hands, but 20 seconds is the most appropriate. So make sure you're getting those hard to get areas, those spots, and really just take your time on hand hygiene so we can prevent the spread of disease. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you, and I hope that that was a great visual aid for you.